Hi, I'm Casey, and I have a crush on food. And today I have a crush on pork tenderloin with balsamic glaze. I'm going to show you how to make a really easy dinner meal that doesn't take hardly any time at all. So I'm going to start with a pound to a pound and a quarter pork tenderloin that I have here. And you're just going to cut it crosswise into medallions, kind of cylinders. And depending on the size of pork tenderloin that you got, 8 to 10, maybe 11 pieces. So you're just going to make nice cuts down the pork tenderloin. Once you get it all cut up, you're going to take 2 pieces of plastic wrap, one on the bottom. You're going to put your pieces of pork on one of the pieces of plastic wrap, and then cover it with the other piece. And you're going to use a meat mallet or a heavy saucepan, if you don't have a meat mallet, to pound the meat and thin it out. So they're going to be really thin once you pound the pork cylinders down. So go ahead and do that with all of your slices of pork, and then we'll season them. So I flattened out all of the pork cylinders and they're ready to go. You can see they're thin. I have a large skillet here that I have on a medium heat. I'm just letting it warm up. We're going to season the pork now. I have half a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and half a teaspoon of thyme, and then just a dash, a little bit of allspice. So you can just sprinkle that on top of the meat, and you want to make sure that you season both sides. So maybe just put half, and then kind of love your meat and rub it a little bit, and turn it over to the other side, and then put the rest of the seasoning on the other side. So my pork is all loved and seasoned, and I got my skillet nice and hot. I put a couple of turns of olive oil on the bottom. It's going to cook fast, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes on each side because they're pounded thin. So go ahead and just drop your meat in the pan. It's a nice sound. You might have to do more than one batch, just depending on the size of your pan. So keep an eye on the meat. Once the edges of the meat start to cook, then you know it's time to turn them over. So the pork is done, and you can just set it aside and maybe put a piece of foil over it to keep it warm. Next step is the balsamic glaze. So using the same skillet here, you can turn the heat down a little bit. If your pan is too hot, just take it off the burner for a couple of minutes. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of butter in here, which is just under, it's about 2/3 of a tablespoon, just to give you an idea of how much 2 teaspoons is. And then I'm going to put 1 large shallot that I chopped in the pan also. So this is going to cook together just until the shallots are brown. Chop the shallot finely. Doesn't take long for the shallot to brown. And then we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of brown sugar and 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar that you can combine before you put it in the pan, just so the sugar can dissolve a little bit in the balsamic glaze. And that's going to cook pretty fast. So my shallots are already they're not trying to turn brown. They are turning brown, which was the expected outcome of putting them in a hot pan. So I'm going to put the balsamic and brown sugar mixture in here, and you're going to stir it constantly, and it's only going to take about 30 or 40 seconds. So you're going to kind of smell, it's going to bubble a lot, and you're going to smell the vinegar. It's going to kind of turn into a little bit of a thicker mixture because the sugar is cooking. It's really good. So once you have that all stirred, and it's been about 30 seconds and it thickens, then you can take the skillet off of the heat. Looks great. So I'm going to turn the heat off and set my skillet aside. And you can serve the pork with the glaze on top. You can put the glaze on in a container on the side and people can pour it over themselves. But you definitely want to eat the pork with the balsamic glaze. So I hope you try my pork tenderloin with balsamic glaze and you love it.